Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Transfer Portal CFB presented by NoContextCFB. We've got a great episode lined up for y'all over on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts, all that fun stuff. You've got Dylan here with us, Lauren, and a special guest, Eric Edholm. Hello, Eric. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me onto the pod. Happy to be here.
Would you like to just tell everyone listening like what you do and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time chasing my children around the house, but that's probably not what you're interested in. I cover the NFL and the NFL draft for Yahoo Sports when I'm not dealing with the kids, and I've been here. I've had two different stints at Yahoo. I was there from 2013 to 17, and then came back in 2019. And have been here ever since. So yeah, just looking forward to the season. I've been covering the league a while, and very interesting NFL season, very interesting college football season coming up, and can't wait to get rolling.
I think everyone would like to know: do you prefer the NFL or college football?
Yeah, it's a great question. I covered just the league for so long. I didn't do as much draft stuff for college football, so it was kind of work and play almost for a while, right? The NFL was work. I kind of was emotionally detached from it as much as I could. I didn't have a favorite team or anything like that. College football was sort of my guilty pleasure. It was the only football I got to kind of enjoy as more of a fan. But as I shifted to doing some draft work, I'm not doing quite as much early in the year this year as I did the last couple of years, but it's obviously a little bit more studying and less sort of sitting back and, pounding beers and watching and that sort of thing. I mean, I'd love to do that. Don't get me wrong. But I would say I still probably enjoy college football a little bit more, just from a fan standpoint, if you will. But I mean, the NFL game is great. It's at the peak of its powers. Obviously, the popularity is through the roof, and that's why I have a job, so I love it on some level.
Very true, very true. Dylan and Lauren, I'm sure you guys both prefer college football, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
All right.
Who's everybody's favorite teams? I just want to get. I know you're a UCLA guy, but Liam, but who do you guys sort of pull for? Do you have a favorite team or anything like that? Just so I get my bearings here.
Yeah, I'm an Oregon fan and an Oregon graduate.
And you guys are still friends, so you guys enjoy each other's company, right? Okay.
That's right. I have nothing against UCLA.
We just don't have to talk about last year's game and what happened at the end of the first half.
I go to Texas A&M, and so big Aggie gal, all about the maroon.
12th man, I love it. Yeah, great. Kyle Field's a great place to see a game. I love it down there. Absolutely.
Can't wait to get back there Saturday. Yep.
It's going to be a big one.
And for those listening, yeah, I'm a UCLA fan. It's tough, but this year looks like it'll be some fun.
Yes.
Also, just whatever group of 5 team I like that week, essentially. Huge fan of. So over at the Transfer Portal CFB, we pick 10 games every week. Get a lot of people over there picking games. And this week's slate is truthfully loaded for an opening weekend. We're very excited for it. Starts off strong tomorrow with Boise State and UCF. So just going to kind of go around here, start with Eric. Let us know your thoughts on this game and who you're picking.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to see what, Andy Avalos is going to bring, obviously. And, Boise State, I would say, is kind of, coming off a little bit of a disappointing year to some degree. And, you got Gus Malzahn too. And so it's, kind of two interesting coaching battles there. And, I would say I'd probably say UCF might be one possession better in kind of a shootout type game. I think we're going to see the ball slinging all over the place, a lot of throwing in this one. And we'll take the home team. I think they might just have a little bit of an advantage.
Lauren, what do you have to say about this matchup?
Not much, honestly. Big SEC gal, so this is not my side of things, of course. But I think UCF is just UCF. They tend to get things done pretty well.
What about you, Dylan?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by, Boise State in their first year with Andy Avalos as well, that he was a former Boise State defensive coordinator and a former player. And as well, he went to Oregon and was the defensive coordinator there as well. I really like UCF's offense. I think they lost a lot of players, but Jalen Robinson is one of those guys who is going to be one to watch for me. He's kind of a do-it-all guy, had almost 1,000 yards in a shortened season. Dylan Gabriel can throw the lights out. So I'm really excited to watch them for Boise State. I feel like I have a lot of questions with their passing game. They have like two great receivers in Khalil Shakir and C.T. Thomas, but Hank Bachmeier, I'm not really sure is the guy for them just yet. So if I had to pick a team, I would go UCF fairly comfortably.
All right. I respect that decision, and we're all going UCF here. I've got UCF. I went with the score of 45-38. Think it'll be high scoring. Even though I do agree with you, I'm hesitant to, have a strong, good take of Hank Bachmeier. UCF's defense been putrid. He could throw over them. He's got two good receivers, like you mentioned, C.T. Thomas and Khalil Shakir. On the UCF side of the ball, I'm very, very excited to watch Dylan Gabriel, the lefty, throw again. Jalen Flash Robinson, the OU transfer, is sick. Expecting Ryan O'Keefe and Brandon Johnson to impact as well. So we've all got UCF there. Going into the next game, we've got Penn State, Wisconsin. What are your thoughts there, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of my part of the country. I live in Chicago. I see a lot of Big Ten football, and Penn State had that weird year last year. I guess Wisconsin kind of did too as well. But which Penn State team is going to show up and what kind of offense they've got? I mean, that's really, I think the big story, especially coming out against what I think is going to be a very, very good Wisconsin defense. I think they're going to be excellent on that side of the ball. Graham Mertz, we saw the flashes. He's a player that I think could be very good, but he's got some work to do. So I see a little lower scoring game than what we just talked about in the Boise State UCF game, but I sort of see Wisconsin just being a little bit more class in this one. It's at Camp Randall, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I think there'll be just enough of Mertz in a different looking run game than we've seen in the past from them. And, I would say Penn State probably going to be a little bit more problematic on offense, especially facing that great Badgers defense. So I'll say Wisconsin wins by a touchdown.
All right. What do you have on this game, Dylan?
Yeah, I think Eric made a great point about Wisconsin's defense, but at the same time, their offense really was, you used the word putrid earlier, and I think that's a really good word. Wisconsin had, I think, 47 points a game in their first two games, had some COVID issues, and then they had 3 straight games where they only scored in single digits, which was just really rough to see that kind of stoppage in their development. And then the next game after that, it took them overtime to score 20 against Minnesota, and Minnesota didn't have a very good defense either. So, I think of Wisconsin's defense kind of as like, Jacob deGrom in the Mets. Like Jacob deGrom is like throwing the lights out and he just can't get that run support from the offense. So it's going to be a low scoring game, I think, as well. Penn State's defense only has 5 returning starters, I believe. So that's going to be interesting to see. And then the quarterbacks, like who's going to show up? Is it Sean Clifford or Graham Mertz? Like who can be the guy to get that win over a ranked team? But I'm going to go Wisconsin. I think they have the defense to stop Penn State. And I think their run game is going to be good as well. But I hope Jalen Berger is going to be the guy, out there on the first series.
All right, Lauren, what do you have on this game? Do you make it 3 Wisconsin picks?
Yes, I will. I think Graham Mertz is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the nation, and I think he has a bit to prove after last season being pretty wishy-washy and everything like that. I think that locker room will be ready to go.
Yeah, and I make it 4 for 4 with Wisconsin, so no differential in our picks yet. I have Wisconsin winning 27-24. I think it'll be pretty ugly at times. I have no clue what to expect from Penn State. I am not a Coach Franklin guy. I've made that clear over the years. No clue what to expect from Sean Clifford, but I like the receivers in Jahan Dotson, Parker Washington. Noah Cain's a pretty talented back, so they've got talent there. And I thought it was really surprising to see Jalen Berger didn't win the RB1 job, and Ches Malusi did, if I'm saying that right. So we'll see what he has to bring to the table. But yeah, I've got Wisconsin in that game. The next game is Alabama-Miami, which I assume we're all on Alabama here. What do you have on this game, Lauren?
Like a score?
Just your thoughts on Alabama-Miami.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was like, yes. Well, my inner Manville gal in me says Derek King's got to, turn on a show, but I don't think it's going to be the show that I deep down hope it could be. So Alabama will probably, do Alabama things. So hoping Derek King can make a name for himself this season as well as he did last year and keep growing on that. But they're Alabama. It's Nick Saban. I think you give him a stage, he's going to perform.
I assume you're rolling with Alabama as well, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably going to feel a little bit to Derek King like the season opener a couple of years ago when he was at Houston and they went up against a freight train in Oklahoma. I mean, that sort of style. I mean, Bryce Young, he gets the keys to the car, and he's assuming Jahlil Billingsley is with the program. You've got John Mechie, you've got what should be a great defense as well. Brian Robinson Jr. obviously at running back, and just too much. I mean, Miami's defense is having to replace a couple parts. They've got some talent in the secondary, but I think they're going to be chasing a lot of tails on in this one.
All right, Dylan, let us know why you like Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, they just keep reloading every year. Like Eric said, they lost a lot of first-round guys, a lot of starters, a lot of longtime starters, but that recruiting class might have been somehow their best one in recent memory, especially at like the skill position. Because they got guys like Edgy Hall, Trayshawn Holden, Christian Leary, Ja'Cory Brooks is a big one. Those are all receivers right there that could see playing time this season. And then, like you said, you talked about Bryce Young and Brian Robinson. They got Jamison Williams from Ohio State. So they were just loaded. The offensive line is going to be insane with Evan Neal. Moving from right tackle to left might be kind of interesting to see, but he's 6'7", 360. I don't think he'll have a problem. He's very skilled, very athletic. And then that defense is, monstrous. Will Anderson is a monster. They call him the Terminator for a very good reason. Malachi Moore is a stud. It's crazy because Miami, like this might be their best, probably their best season since like the late 90s, early 2000s. And they still, frankly, have no shot at winning this game. But after this game, I think Miami could have a really good year. The only game I really see them stumbling is at North Carolina. Other than that, I think they could possibly be a New Year's Six team. But I'm going with Alabama.
All right. So, yeah, I make it Alabama for all four of us as well, 48-21. I don't think Miami will have a very good season. I mentioned a lot. I think they start off 0-2 with losses to Alabama and App State. On the Alabama side of things, super excited to watch Henry To'oTo'o. Super, super excited to watch Malachi Moore. He's going to have a huge season, improve just his name and recognition a bunch. Jahlil Billingsley, that situation's really weird. I hope everything's okay. We have like no clue what's going on there, but it's not looking too good since he was listed as like TE3. So that's kind of worrisome. But how could you not be excited to watch Bryce Young and Derek King go at it opening weekend? That'll be super fun. In our next matchup, we have back to the Big Ten, Indiana, Iowa. More Big Ten country for you, Eric. What do you have to say on that matchup?
If the last game was fun, to use your word, I don't know that I would use that for this particular game. I mean, I've seen a lot of Iowa games over the years, and that's usually my nap time. Whenever they play, I kind of build my nap around. I'm kidding. I actually have some friends up there, and I hope they listen just so they can, send me angry texts or something like that. Spencer Petras is an interesting quarterback. I don't think he's as talented or as game changing as Michael Penix Jr. But there's a lot of pressure on Indiana, to prove that last year wasn't a fluke, to show that this is a program on the rise. And, can they get a consistent run game? Can their defense make stops, especially in the secondary? I don't think that's a big issue in this game. they'll have to focus more on the run. But also a really good battle in the trenches. You know, I mean, I think Tyler Linderbaum is probably the best center in the country. He's not huge, but he's an incredible athlete. You know, former wrestler. He's got unbelievable leverage. He's if you're going to watch one offensive lineman in this game, and Iowa's been cranking out the talent for years, he's one you want to watch. But I think it's going to be Penix and Ty Freifogel and just a little bit too much of them. Even if, you know, it may not be their cleanest offensive outing, I think they're just going to be one score better. And, you know, typical Big Ten game, 24-17 or 21-17, something like that. I don't see a ton of points, even though Indiana obviously showed they could score a lot last year.
What do you have for this one, Dylan?
I actually have some differentiation. We got some disagreement for once.
I like it.
So we've got a show now. So I picked Iowa. I actually originally went with Indiana to go. You know, right as I looked at this game, Indiana was like, you know, I like the talent that they have, defense, they're loaded. And Iowa is as well. They were a top 10 defense too. But something about Iowa's defense more specifically kind of, I think fit this matchup, because I don't like Michael Penix, you know, being kind of a guy to show out right away. I mean, he's coming off of the ACL, you know, is losing a couple guys on that offense. Stevie Scott is a big loss. I'm not sure who's going to replace him in that run game. And then Watt Fillier is another big loss. Like you said, Freifogel was a good one too. So I expect Freifogel to have a huge year. The defense, you know, Tywan Mullen is one of my top 5 corners in the league, in the country. And Micah McFadden is a fantastic linebacker. I just think this Iowa defense is too experienced. And at home, I don't see them losing this game at home. And Tyler Goodson is one of the most underrated running backs in the country. So I think it's going to be a really close, low-scoring game, but I got Iowa.
Intrigued to see what you have to say for this one, Lauren.
I know, I was looking at it too, and I was like, Indiana's got some mojo going there, but like Dylan said, Iowa's defense is very talented. I actually have a friend's brother who plays on that defense, so I couldn't pick against him. But yes, Iowa definitely will have something going on back there. Iowa at home, it's incredible atmosphere. Probably a close game, more than we would anticipate, but it'll definitely be a show.
So I have Iowa here 20-16, and I actually think that I hate using the term already, but this, to me, just looking at it for Indiana, it's kind of a must win in my eyes, because I think the start of their schedule is absolutely brutal with games at Iowa to start. They play Cincy, they play at Western Kentucky, which is sandwiched in between Cincy and at Penn State. It's not easy. Western Kentucky's got a great offense. Talk about that later. But no, I'm just super excited to watch Iowa play because of Tyler Linderbaum, as y'all mentioned. I think he's, you know, first, second, third best offensive lineman in the country. Could really show why he's worthy of being picked in the first round. As Eric mentioned, he is an incredible athlete. Yeah, he did wrestle, but he also played baseball in high school, did shot put. He played scout team receiver. Like, there's not many offensive linemen with the, you know, high level of athleticism that Linderbaum has. Super excited to watch him, watch Goodson too. Indiana's weird to me because Penix coming off the injury is very odd. They really could have benefited greatly from the COVID season, as odd as that is to say. Excited to watch Ty Fry and Tywan Mullen. And I saw Stephen Carr won the RB1 job, and I thought he was brutally misused at SC. So really happy for him. Really excited to see if he could carry on the workload and be a really good workhorse back for IU. Our next contest is between ULL and Texas. What do you have to say for this game, Lauren?
It pains me to pick Texas. It really does. I think it's going to be a big joke of the weekend. Not like the game's not actually a joke, but definitely something a lot of people poke fun at. So I do hope ULL gives them a pretty much of a hard time. They're an incredible program. Part of me does really want them to win and would pick them. But it's Sark's first game as a head coach and at Texas, and those Texas fans got some Twitter fingers going like crazy. So for the sake of Twitter not being a bloodbath, I'm going to go with Texas.
What about you, Dylan?
I was actually very, very close to picking Louisiana. I actually like the matchup for this game for Louisiana. I could easily see them winning this game because I don't like Texas's defense very much. They don't return a lot of starters. Overshown is kind of unproven. I think he came into this offseason kind of struggling a little bit. And then they have one of their starting safeties is going to be Brendan Schooler, who's switched positions for the fifth or sixth time. So, and he used to be an Oregon receiver and safety, and he's done the same thing at Texas, go from receiver to safety. So that secondary is going to be tough to watch. I think Levi Lewis could have himself a field day against Texas. I think it's going to be close and maybe high scoring. I like Texas's offense. And I really hope Jatavion Sanders, who is their top recruit, gets immediate playing time because I already think it's him and Bijan Robinson who are the two most talented guys on the offense. But I do like Texas in this one just because I think they have more talent.
What's your take on this one, Eric?
I'm doing what the others could not, and I'm picking Louisiana. Cajuns are going to win this one. Obviously, that area has been affected by Hurricane Ida, and a lot of people displaced in that area. I don't know if there'll be an emotional effect. We saw what they did last year going up to Ames and beating Iowa State. It was a little bit of a fluky game. I mean, I think they won by 20. I don't even know if they had 300 yards of offense in that game. And they do lose the two running backs, two very talented backs. They've had three of them drafted the last couple of years, but Levi Lewis in that style, I mean, the offensive line should be really strong despite losing a couple guys. Lewis has been running the system for a while. Billy Napier's got it moving. I really think that it's going to be less about, Kyle Flood and Sark and Hudson Card. I mean, yes, that'll be one huge talking point for the course of the season. But, what Dylan mentioned earlier about the Texas defense, boy, they have some pieces to replace. Safety, pass rusher, linebacker, all three levels of the defense, you could argue, have some major questions. And facing that style of offense where they can run slants, they can, run the option game, RPO, a lot of different things to prepare for. Probably better it's the first game. They've had time to game plan. But if Texas turns the football over and Louisiana doesn't, I think they've got a path to victory. So I'll call the upset. I'll say 34-31. And the Longhorns defense ends up being a big story on Sunday morning.
Love hearing that. I also went with ULL by 3. I have them winning 30-27. I think they're going to be able to control the ball like they have in years past. I'm looking at Chris Smith as RB1. He ran for 7.3 yards per carry last year, and he caught 16 passes for 170 yards. So I'm super intrigued to see him get more production, increase his volume, make a name for himself. I think Levi Lewis is a really good QB to lean on. Think he'll throw for a good bit against this Texas defense. On the Texas side of things, I am excited to watch Josh Moore take another leap at receiver. Very intrigued to see Hudson Card because I don't know much about him, but if he beat out Casey Thompson, he's got to have a good level of talent. So excited to see him. Bijan Robinson's easily one of the best backs in the game. Can't wait to watch him. I think it's going to be a really fun game. I think ULL wins it late. Like I said, 30-27, maybe a last-second field goal. I think Percy Butler on their defense makes a big play on the defensive side of things late in this game that kind of shifts the result of this game. Next up, you have Houston and Texas Tech, which is a neutral site game at NRG Stadium in Houston. What do you have on this one, Eric?
I'm sorry. Which game are we doing now?
Houston, Texas Tech.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. I mean, I guess I'm kind of curious what the Matt Wells offense looks like and what they can do as far as generating big points. Obviously, a really interesting quarterback situation there, and I don't have a strong feel for this one, but I mean, Houston's defense loses a first-round pick, a big, I guess I don't know if they're going to be able to stop Tyler Shuck and really have. I mean, the reports that I've gotten from not only when I talked to Matt Wells a couple months ago, I guess maybe now, he was very excited about what they can do in the passing game. I would say the Red Raiders are probably going to be in a little bit better shape defensively. I don't know that I've ever spoken those words before, because they got a ton of guys back from the COVID rules, the super senior eligibility, if you will. I think they're, just having personnel back on that side of the ball could end up being enough to make a difference. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to predict Texas Tech being, super competitive or great on that side of the ball, but I think we'll see just enough from them to edge out Houston in a shootout.
What's your take on this game, Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, being a Oregon fan and student, watching Tyler Shuck last year and kind of having super high expectations for him post Justin Herbert era. I'm not going to say I was disappointed, but I expected a little bit more in terms of like the play calling. I figured they would kind of let him throw the ball down the field a little bit more, and maybe it was his own doing. Maybe he was just a little bit nervous to throw the ball down the field. At least that's what it looked like, especially against USC in the Pac-12 championship game. I just don't know if he's fit for the style of offense that Texas Tech usually runs. I don't know if he's an air raid guy. I think they have the receivers to do it. I really like, I'm going to butcher his name, but Eric Edholm, I believe. And Texas Tech fans can roast me if I got that wrong. But he's going to be a big help for Tyler Shuck to get him kind of rolling. But I like Houston's defensive line. I really like some of the pieces that they've added from the transfer portal. And I like Clayton Tune to have a good year this year, a good bounce back year. And I like some of the receivers and Nathaniel Dell, Keyshawn Carter, and then at running back, Tejon Henry is going to be one of the players to watch in this game. So I just think Houston is better on both sides right now because Texas Tech, like Eric was saying, the offense, we just don't know what it's going to look like. So I like Houston by 2 touchdowns.
All right. What do you have for this one, Lauren? We know you love all things Texas pretty much.
Yep. Oh, fun one to pick. I'm going with Houston. Texas Tech, just, you get expectations for them and then they just never reach them. I think Clayton Tune's a really talented quarterback. I think Coach Holgerson this season's got a bunch to prove as a coach as well. Houston this past week has been taking in a lot of people from Louisiana. So I think they're a good, emotional state too as a team that they'll want to go in and put on a show. Clayton Tune will definitely be getting a chip on his shoulder playing such talented quarterback at Tech as well.
So looks like Eric's the only one that's on Texas Tech. I went with Houston by 2 scores as well. I went 42-28. I like the pieces that they have on offense. Mo Bakar is entering his 6th season, his 3rd as a senior, so that's pretty crazy. You gotta love having that experience. So they've got a grown man playing running back, run over people. Got a great name too. I like their receiver core. I like Nathaniel Dell, Bryson Smith, Keandre Street, Jeremy Singleton. They have so much talent on offense, and I just need to see more from Clayton Tune. I need to see him step up and thrive. On the defensive end and on special teams, Marcus Jones is just a flat-out stud doing everything. He might just return a kick for a touchdown in this game. As for Texas Tech, we mentioned Eric Edholm at receiver, who's, he's pretty dang good, to say the least. But I don't know what to expect from Tyler Shuck. I didn't have high expectations for him like Dylan did at Oregon last year. I wasn't expecting much. I was kind of calling for him to get replaced all season, which, sorry, but, sometimes you just got to say you're right. I don't know how he's going to fit into this offense at all. I have no idea what to expect from Texas Tech, especially on defense. There's just too many question marks for me, and that's why I went with Houston. Definitely can be closer than 2 scores, but I don't know. I was just more comfortable picking Houston, scoring a lot of points. That brings us to huge matchup here with Georgia, Clemson, and Charlotte. I'm very excited to see what you all have to say for this matchup, and we'll start with Eric.
Yeah, this one's the big dog, and I mean I think we're going to get an excellent game. I really think that you're going to see 2 dominant defenses, 2 teams that are really well stocked up front. Obviously the team that loses has to feel like, wow, this is kind of a big blow early in the year. You can go the course of the season and build your way back up, obviously, but I don't really see a shootout. I mean, as much as potential as both offenses could have, JT Daniels, obviously DJ, making his, I believe, third start now. And I think it helped a great deal that he got thrown into the mix last year, kind of unexpectedly, obviously having to play that tough road game, having to come back in the first one against BC and then go on the road at Notre Dame and handle that environment. That'll help prepare him for this one. And, I would like, Clemson's chances to play in almost any game, especially a season opener. But Georgia's darn good, man. I kept going back and forth on this one as much as I love the Clemson secondary. I mean, I think Georgia can win this one. I really do. I believe that, Clemson, the assumption is that great, Justin Ross is going to be back and healthy and ready to go. And, Darian Kendrick's going to step right in and be focused and ready to go. Xavier Thomas is going to have a dominant season. I don't know that we can put all those things together and assume it's going to come out against a really strong opponent, pretty close to home. I know, obviously Clemson's a little closer, but still, this one may end up going Georgia's way, in my opinion, if they can win the battle in the trenches and JT Daniels just plays a little bit better than DJ, over the course of four quarters.
All right. What you got for this one, Dylan?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by a lot of the young talent that we're probably going to see. Georgia in the secondary, they have a lot of guys vying for playing time at cornerback, the front seven as well. Georgia actually doesn't return a whole lot of starters on defense, but they're one of those teams that, when they lose guys to the NFL draft, they just reload. They had a phenomenal recruiting class. So I expect to see a good bit of their recruiting class on the field, especially on defense. But both offenses I expect to be explosive, which for Georgia, under Jake Fromm was just not the case. But I like, if I had to put the game into the hands of either JT Daniels or DJ, I feel like JT would be the guy just because he has a couple games on DJ. But at the same time, I think Clemson, I think they're further along in their development. They have more guys like Justin Ross. I expect to have a really good year. The offensive line is kind of a concern for me for Clemson. They lost a couple guys there. This game was really a toss-up for me. I went back and forth as well. I like Clemson by a touchdown, but I do think this could be a shootout because the defenses, might get worn down. These are really two high-powered offenses. So, as good as both defenses may look on paper, I just think the offenses are that much better. So I'm going to go Clemson in a close one.
All right, that splits the vote 1-1. What's your pick here, Lauren?
Sorry, it is starting to storm here, so I didn't want y'all to hear the crazy thunder and everything. I'm going with Georgia. Georgia will be, trying to prove something because Clemson repeats and everything. First year without Trevor Lawrence, so I feel like Clemson, they know that and they're very aware. But I think Georgia can definitely utilize that and, get it done at a pretty neutral side as well.
All right, so looks like we split the vote here 2-2. I have Clemson winning 31-21. I think it'll be like a 3-point game, maybe a tie game going into the fourth. I think Clemson ends up running away with it in a sense. First off, I hope everything on Eric Gilbert's end is all right. Another just odd situation going on, super talented player. Hope he's all good and that his situations get resolved. Georgia's running back room is loaded. Kendall Milton, James Cook, Zamir White, another three-head monster out there. Going to be fun to watch them split carries and just thrive. Let's see. Darnell Washington, another guy who's coming in hurt, and that's really unfortunate because he and Tyke Smith are both hurt, and they're two very fun players that you just want to watch. So hopefully they're both going to be healthy at some point this season and produce on the field. And Adam Anderson said he wants 20 sacks this season. Let's see if that happens. Probably not, but, dang good player. Think he's got first round, second round upside. He'll be a fun one to watch. On Clemson's side of the ball, going to be fun watching DJ Uiagalelei again. I'm really intrigued to see if Justin Ross comes back and how healthy he is. I hope he's like 220% healthy, but I have no clue if he actually is healthy. If he is, he's one of the best receivers in the country, obviously. They've got Aju and Joseph Nada, who could step up at receiver. Not sure what to expect at running back. I know there's talk about several guys, but I'll just not talk about it. I'll wait and see who pops up. And on the defensive side of things, Andrew Booth is a goon. Brian Brees is a monster. Miles Murphy, another good player. They've got so much talent on defense. So I'm going with Clemson in this one by 10. And that brings us into UCLA LSU. What's your take on this one, Eric?
I think another really good game. I mean, maybe not quite to the level of Georgia Clemson, but I think this is, very quickly a must-see game, even, after what happened last year. And the quarterbacks obviously are going to be the big story. I mean, UCLA can win by 34 without, Dorian Thompson-Robinson playing that well. That's a good sign for UCLA, but we have to see more from him against two great corners, Ali Gay, great linebackers for UCLA. I mean, for LSU, excuse me. I think it's one of these games where it's going to obviously tell a lot about the winner, but also just as much about the loser. But I really don't think LSU's defense is going to be the train wreck it was last year. Pelini had the predictable calls that everybody was groaning about. Durante Jones, their new coordinator there. I know they're very excited. He comes from an NFL system with the Minnesota Vikings, excuse me. And with Stingley and Ricks, I mean, I think they can lock up the outside and get a little bit more creative with their blitz packages. And, they trust those guys in man defense. So if Max Johnson is just solid, good, and he's got that I think he's got some big game moxie to him. We haven't really seen it all, kind of come to the forefront, but he held off a really talented quarterback in Nussmeier. And I don't know, there's just, there's something about this LSU team. I can see them bouncing back in a big way. And, I see them slipping past UCLA by one score, even if I think it's going to be competitive for 4 quarters.
Hate seeing you pick them, but this is a business. I understand it. Lauren, what do you have for this game?
I will be joining him in that answer with LSU. Max Johnson, performed decently whenever we saw him before, but if you're able to beat out Garrett Nussmeier, one of my favorite quarterbacks of his class, and he'll definitely be able to perform well. That LSU defense is going to do what LSU defenses do in DBU and everything, and they'll definitely be successful. Thompson Robinson's kind of very talented, but he won't be able to get much done with those DBs.
What's your call for this game, Dylan?
I think, Liam, you're going to be happy to hear that I'm going with UCLA in this one. I cannot wait to see what Chip Kelly brings out in terms of play calling and, that coaching staff. I don't think I've been this excited to see what he brings out since he was probably in his first year with the Eagles, honestly. I love the talent that LSU has with playmakers. The running back is kind of an interesting one, but Keyshawn Boutte is one of the best receivers in the country. I do think that, Max Johnson or whoever down the line is starting will definitely benefit from having him. But I do think that, UCLA and that play calling, and they have a very aggressive defense. I really like UCLA's defense, especially up front. They move guys around, the linebackers, they can rush, and secondary is very talented. So like Eric said, they can win like that without DTR playing, really good football. I think he only threw 50%, 130 yards. I think UCLA has a really good chance at this one. I just don't really like the talent on the defensive side, especially outside of Stingley and Ricks. I think, outside of them, LSU was getting destroyed. Any other corner safety they had, they were getting destroyed. And I don't expect that to be dramatically different. I think they'll be better given that, they have a full offseason and that kind of stuff. But I think UCLA is just further, I like their offensive playmakers. I like the play calling potential. I'm going UCLA in a close one. I'll take them by 3.
I'm also going UCLA in a close one. I'm going 35-30. Everyone probably thought I was picking UCLA, but before the Hawaii game, I would have been picking LSU. UCLA is trying to fool me again. I'm optimistic now. I'm falling for good play. I really like what I saw last week. Dylan, you mentioned it. The defensive front seven on UCLA was getting active. They're getting their hands up, deflecting passes, creating interceptions. They were really, really good, and that was just super good to see. I love the UCLA offensive line. Sean Ryan is a potential first round pick. I think he's really, really, really good. Last week, I loved watching the holes that he and the rest of the offensive line opened up for the run game. I love Chip Kelly and the designs that he brings in the run game. It's the one positive I've always said about him in his tenure at UCLA was he is designing really good stuff in the run game, and our run game has been very good these past few seasons. I'm excited to see it go to the next level. On the LSU side of things, Kayshon Boutte is the best receiver in the country that doesn't play for Ohio State. I think that will end up being known at some point this season. His yards after a catch ability it's scary how good he is. This kid is a freak. Defensively, Derek Stingley and Eli Ricks, very scared. Very worried for Dorian there. I think Dorian's super talented, but the one thing he does is he tends to overthrow. And last Saturday, it felt like he was trying to throw the ball too hard, inconsistently there. I think UCLA will focus more on a run-heavy scheme to win this game. I think we'll see Dorian run the ball a good bit. Super excited for this game. I think Glenn Logan is another guy to watch on LSU in the interior defensive line. But I've got UCLA winning 35-30. I think there's a big play by the defense late in this game that shifts the tide, puts UCLA in position to win the game. And we go to another Saturday night game. Super fun one, I think. It's Nevada and Cal. What do you have on this game, Lauren?
I have Nevada. They just kind of they get things done. Nervous to pick Cal, and just Nevada solidly.
All right. What about you, Dylan?
Yeah, I'm a Pac-12 guy, and I'm very, very solid on Nevada as well. I'm wholeheartedly going Nevada. I didn't even think twice. I just, Cal's defense is usually pretty good. I just think Nevada's offense is one of the most underrated in the country from head to toe. I mean, Liam, you've written a lot about them. Romeo Doubs is an absolute monster. Going to be one of the probably 5 best receivers in the country, I think, this year. Carson Strong, we can go all day about him. Eric, I know you probably have looked at Carson Strong a good bit. Going to be one of probably a first round pick in 2022 if he goes. And Cal, I just don't like their offense at all. I really don't. Chase Garbers can win, but, against some lower Pac-12 teams, I guess, Nevada's not your lower Pac-12 team. I like Nevada. I'll take him by 10. I'll take him 41. No, I'll go 31-21.
Love seeing 2 people roll with Nevada. Do you make it 3, Eric?
I'm going to go against the grain on this one, only because I'm a little bit concerned about Carson Strong's knee. He's missed some practice time. They were very vague on his status, and that's probably the only thing that worries me. I mean, all the reasons you guys laid out there, Mountain West Play of the Year, they get back their top, I think, 8 of their top 9 targets, but their big 3 up, on the outside of receiver, also a tight end with Cole Turner. That offense should do amazing things this year. But if Strong's not ready for this one, it's a good Cal defense. They bring back a lot of experience, talent in the secondary. Justin Wilcox done a great job with that staff. Peter Sermon, their defensive coordinator, I think is a rising star. There's a lot to like about this Cal program, even if Chase Garbers in the offense can't score a ton of points probably. So it's a little bit of a risk going that way because Nevada can really shoot it and I think can put up the big points. But if they harass Strong and get him off his spots and that knee is bothering him, I could see the upset, I guess. I don't even know if they're favored, to be honest. But I'll go the other way on this one just to spice it up a little bit.
All right. Yeah, Cal is favored by 3.5 here. So I love Justin Wilcox, but I think he's a great coach. Even great coaches lose games. I have Nevada winning like 38 or 41-21 or 24. I think Nevada has the passing I think Nevada has the talent in their offense to have one of the most lethal passing attacks in the country. I think it could be top 3 in the country. When you have Carson Strong, who right now I think already, in my opinion, is a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. He's QB 2 or 3 for me with the potential to be there at QB 1. I love Strong. He's got a bazooka for an arm, deadly accurate, makes NFL throw after NFL throw. And the talent that he is set up with at Nevada is not something you would expect. He has a potential top 5 receiver in the country who could be a top 50 pick in Romeo Dubs. He has Elijah Cooks, who was a monster before he went down with injury early last season. He has a 6'6" tight end, Cole Turner, who is going to rise up NFL draft boards due to his mismatch ability, his red zone threat. Like, they are set up for so much success, this passing attack, and I can't wait to watch. You've got Stovall, too, who's a pretty solid receiver. Justin Lockhart's a guy who could step up. And on their offensive line, I think it's been overlooked. Aaron Frost, the right tackle, is another guy that will be talked about as an NFL prospect. So you've got a top 10 pick at QB, a top 50 pick at receiver, another NFL pick at receiver, another NFL pick at tight end, another NFL pick at right tackle. This isn't your normal group of 5 Mountain West passing attack. Like, these dudes are sick. And on their defense, they have 11 upperclassmen starters. I love that. I'm looking at Burdale, Take Money Robbins at corner, expecting him to make some big plays this season. It's a defense that impressed last year and took a big step forward, but they didn't create havoc, and that's something that they're going to look to do this year. They returned some guys from COVID too, so I think Nevada's just a really good team to watch, and I just don't really see it with Cal. I picked them as my overrated team in the Pac-12. I only have them winning like 4 games. I think they have a brutal start to the season with Nevada early, Oregon's early, Washington's early. It could be rough for Cal, so I'm going with Nevada by a significant margin. And that'll bring us to Sunday night's game, which is Notre Dame, Florida State. What do you have for this one, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, the health of Mackenzie Milton, I think, is going to be the big story there. What he looks like, if he's going to be able to play and everything, and looks like he is from what I've been able to tell. Obviously, Jack Cohn on the other side too, and I mean, it's kind of an interesting battle at Doak Campbell, but Notre Dame should still be the chalk in this one, I think, and Kyle Hamilton at safety, and the talent they have defensively. Jack Patterson in that offensive line. I mean, I know they it's another team that's been cranking out the OL talent, and I think that's going to be kind of an area that'll help fuel them this season. Obviously, Kyron Williams in the run game too. It may not be pretty, but I think Notre Dame will kind of grind down Florida State. I don't know defensively if they've got enough of a rush or enough coverage ability. They lose Asante Samuel. They lose Janarius Robinson, other pieces on defense as well. So, yeah, I just feel like even if the crowd is fired up and FSU fans are kind of building this momentum towards, regaining some respectability, Notre Dame in the end is just going to be a little bit too good, I think.
All right. What do you have for us, Dylan?
I'm going with Florida State because I want to go spicy here. I haven't really had a spicy one yet. I'm going to go Florida State. I think this is a program slowly on the rise. Last year kind of saw bits and pieces of that, and the recruiting classes have been getting better and better under Norvell. So I really expect them to kind of bounce back starting this year. Notre Dame is one heck of an opponent to kind of test where you are as a program. And I think defensively, I actually like some of the talent that they have up front. They made a couple big additions in the transfer portal with Jermaine Johnson from Georgia, who I think could be a game changer for them. You talked about Notre Dame's offensive line. It's kind of a nice equalizer to watch, the battle of the trenches. Florida State, if Mackenzie Milton can be healthy and he's slinging it like he used to back at UCF, I feel like Notre Dame can't stop that. I think Florida State has a good amount of weapons. They have a lot of returners on offense. So I like Florida State in a close one. I think they maybe fall behind early and come back late. I like them by 4.
What about 24-20? What about you, Lauren?
I'm going with Notre Dame. I feel like just as a program standard, you don't want to lose to Florida State to open up your season. So talented defense, and I think they'll get the win.
All right, looks like we split this one too. I went with Florida State 27-23. I think it'll be a pretty ugly game. I don't want to speak on it too much because we have some other stuff to get into. Just hope Mackenzie Milton is healthy and looking forward to watching Michael Mayer, Notre Dame tight end. So next, we're going to just, each one of you is just going to speak upon an underrated matchup that we didn't speak about, just real quick. What's yours, Eric?
I don't know if I'm stealing Lauren's on this one, but Kent State A&M is sort of catches my attention a little bit. I don't know if Kent State has the defense to stop, Isaiah Spiller and Weidermeyer and everybody else. But we are talking about Haynes King's first start. Dustin Crum obviously can put up the yards. I mean, he completed 75% of his passes. I just want to see Crum against that A&M defense more than anything. And I mean, that offense was a monster last year. So defensively, can they make any strides to pull off the upset? Probably not. But I think it'll be a fun one, at least for the first half or early in the game.
Love that pick. I had the pleasure of speaking to Dustin Crum, and he was super excited about this game. So we're really excited to see what he brings to the table. What's your underrated matchup for the week, Lauren?
Oh, hello. Okay. Yes, that actually was mine. I know, crazy A&M student, nervous, but of course I am. The more I watch Dustin Crum's film and everything of what he's done, he's definitely impressive quarterback. And with it being Haynes King's first start as an Aggie and everything, it's a night game at Kyle. There's lots of things happening. So I think, I would rather be the team with the more experienced quarterback in this one.
What's yours, Dylan?
Yeah, so I went with a couple of West Coast ones. I think one I like more than the other. I like San Jose State USC a lot. I think San Jose State could actually push USC a bit. But the one that I've looked a lot into for obvious reasons is Fresno State and Oregon. A lot of people, I think Oregon is like a 23, 24-point favorite to open. I think Fresno State has one of, like you said with Nevada, I think they have one of the most lethal offenses in the country. Jake Haener he picked up exactly where he left off in 2020. Ronnie Rivers is in his fifth year doing the same thing as he's been doing. He's an absolute bust. He can catch passes out of the backfield. Then you have guys that can take the top off the defense. You have Jalen Cropper, Carrick Wheatfield, Zane Pope, Josh Kelly. Offensive line's a little bit of a concern. But Dante Bull at left tackle is a bull. That guy's a monster. He's huge. Against UConn, obviously they had no problem because UConn is kind of the runt of the litter in terms of FBS teams. No offense to any UConn fans that are listening out there. But Fresno State, I feel like they could push Oregon. I feel like it could be, potentially like a 34-30 game going into the fourth quarter. Anthony Brown only had a few series last year going, the Pac-12 championship game. He got thrown in there all of a sudden. I was at that game and seeing him warm up and get thrown out there was just mind-boggling to me because Tyler Shuck had gotten every snap. And then in the Fiesta Bowl, it was kind of 50-50. So I don't really know what to expect with Anthony Brown, but the running backs are going to be insane with CJ Verdell and Travis Dye. I really like Joe Moorhead opening up the playbook a little bit more. The receivers and the tight ends are probably the best group that Oregon's had since probably as far back as the Chip Kelly days, maybe even better. Offensive lines experience, defense, the secondary is a little scary going against that Fresno State offense and then Ohio State down the line. But I think Oregon will control it, but I think Fresno State could make it really interesting.
Love that pick. I have a few honorable mentions. I'm excited to watch Western Kentucky and their new offense with all this Houston Baptist talent coming in. I'm excited to watch number 3 of the FCS, South Dakota State at Colorado State. Shockingly, the FCS team is a road favorite here. South Dakota State is -3. Pierre Strong's a fun running back to watch. Western Michigan at Michigan. Western Michigan has offensive talent despite losing Dwayne Eskridge and Bellamy. They've got talent on offense. Alby's a stud QB. Sky Moore, Jalen Hall at receiver, fun players to watch. They could make that game a lot more interesting than people think. The FCS number 21 team, Northern Iowa, goes at Iowa State. I really wanted to talk more about this one, but Northern Iowa has given Iowa and Iowa State trouble in the past. I think the 38-point spread here is ridiculous. I think that could be a much closer game. Northern Iowa most recently played in the spring where they went 3-4, but dealt with a lot of COVID issues. They returned I think 21 or 22 stars. They're going to give Iowa State a run for their money. They're pretty well coached. I think Northern Iowa could shock some people in that game. And then just UTSA at Illinois. I'm picking UTSA to spoil Illinois and their 1-0 record. I think Illinois is going to be riding too high off that win. I think this is a huge letdown spot. UTSA is super talented. I think they have a better defense easily than Nebraska. They'll be game plan better. Nebraska did not show up for that game. That was embarrassing. Rashad Wisdom, one of the hardest hitting player in the country. He's going to have that defense ready to play, force some turnovers, hit hard. I like Frank Harris and Sincere McCormick. They're talented quarterback running back duo that knows what it will take to win this game at Illinois. And just going off of that, college football playoff predictions, we need to hear yours, Eric. What do you have for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be a lot of familiar names. I mean, I really think that, you'll see Oklahoma because of Spencer Rattler. Even if, the loser of the Clemson Georgia game certainly can, be in that mix. We know Alabama's going to be in there. I don't know that it sets up for a long shot or a surprise team this year. I still think there's going to be a lot of chalk that kind of ends up making the biggest noise.
All right, respectable. I personally can't be the one to pick chalk. I don't like it. That's why I went with Washington as my fourth team. I don't know how that's going to work, but what about your Heisman pick?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like going against Spencer Rattler because I believe he's the overwhelming favorite, and I wouldn't say it surprises me, but it almost feels, like something will happen along the way, whether it's DJ or Bryce Young kind of spoiling the party, the young quarterback stepping up, whether it's, I don't know. I don't put too much faith in Georgia quarterbacks, but JT Daniels really looked good last year too. I mean, could it be another, huge year for Sam Howell? What does he have to do they would have to have a pretty successful season, I would think, even though he's, somewhat of a household name, but those are probably the biggest names that make the most sense. Could somebody like CJ Stroud come out of left field and join that mix? We talk so much about Uyagale and Bryce Young. I mean, CJ Stroud's a darn talented kid. I mean, he's got the weapons too. I mean, I don't know that anybody in the country has a better. I mean, maybe Nevada, but seriously, I mean, with Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, the tight ends. I mean, they have a really great setup there. So Stroud would be kind of my wild card if I had to pick a longer shot guy.
Love the Stroud pick. That was my pick as well.
Nice.
And then just real quick, who do you think goes number one in the 2022 draft, and who's maybe a few sleepers you're looking for that will rise up draft boards?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be the potential to have another quarterback go in that spot. Sam Howell has some Baker Mayfield to his game. Spencer Rattler has, a little bit of Mahomes to his game too. I don't put either on that kind of level, but I think, if the Houston Texans are picking there and their future is as bleak and featureless as it is right now with Deshaun Watson being in this spot, if that's what ends up happening, I think a quarterback is most likely. Those two guys, as things stand right now, are probably the favorites. So, I'll give you three sleepers. One's a big school guy. You actually mentioned him earlier, Adam Anderson. I mean, he only played 370 snaps in his career. I don't know if 20 sacks is happening, but
ambitious.
That's, I wrote about him for today. I actually just wrote a piece. He's one of my three sleepers I picked. And so the other two guys, Trevor Penning, left tackle for Northern Iowa, FCS kid who lost his season, played a little bit in the spring, probably a better or as good a physical specimen as Spencer Brown, who's a third-round pick and tested through the roof. And I think he's just a better football player. I think he has a chance to be a top 50 selection when it's all said and done. And then I'll dig a little deeper for my next sleeper, and that's Derek Young from Division II Lenore-Rhyne. I mean, he's a player who was forced to kind of play this almost like a Laviska Shenault type role in that very funky offense they ran a year ago, where he was taking end arounds and handoffs and also catching short passes. Now they're going to more of a standard passing attack. And again, it's D2. You guys may not watch it that much, you, the listeners, you, everybody else. But Derek Young is a player with terrific athletic traits. I think that when we get around to draft time, you're going to see him being mentioned quite a bit. So he's a name to file away.
Let's see if Lenore-Rhyne could put out another prospect after
That's
they
right.
did with Kyle Duggar.
Yep.
And our last question for you, Lauren really wanted to ask it, so I'll let her ask away.
All right. I need your thoughts on the Bishop Sycamore situation because I don't know what it is either. So
Yeah, situation's a good word to describe it, right? I mean, first of all, I saw somebody mention, I can't take credit for it on Twitter, but somebody saying like, I'd roll with some Bishop Sycamore swag right about now. I mean, like, if I had a sweatshirt or a hat or something like that, I think that would do all right. But this is easily one of the stranger stories I think I've ever seen. It's something that could have happened like 30 years ago, like before the internet. You could see it happening. Okay. They pull the wool over ESPN's eyes. They create this sort of fake team out of nowhere. The fact that it happens now, where you have so much information at your fingertips, you would assume they would have done a little bit of homework on who these guys actually are. I love the idea that the coach is fired. Who exactly fired him? If this is not a real team, if this is not a real school, who's making this call? Oh, and by the way, he's got arrest warrants out for. You can't make this up. Whenever this comes to Netflix and ends up on one of those docu-series, I'll be binge watching that from start to finish before I even eat meals, take naps, do anything else.
Can't wait to see the 30 for 30 on that debacle. We really enjoyed having you on, Eric. Thank you again for coming on one of our first podcasts. Hopefully, come NFL draft time, we could have you on for a few, because we do want to bring a lot of NFL draft content, despite being just college football people. Where can people follow you?
Yeah, they can check my work out at Yahoo Sports. I'll be doing draft stuff. I'll be covering the league as well, and jumping in on some college stuff as well. And check me out on Twitter, Eric with a C _ Edholm, EDHOLM. And guys, thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure. And I can't wait to watch this and see the success of the show keep going.
Thank you so much. I know Lauren and Dylan are very thankful and appreciative too. So thank you again for doing this. And that'll do it for this episode of the Transfer Portal CFB, presented by NoContextCFB.